Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited that you could join us for another episode of Shawnee Talks Lifestyle. At this time, I definitely would love if you guys could share the feed and just kind of let your friends, your family, different people that come to your mind know that we are live and we're going to be talking about an amazing topic that needs to be talked about on today. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my amazing guest, and her name is Reverend Dr. Vanetta Rather. And she is a preacher, a teacher, an author, and a fierce advocate for women and girls. She is the founder of My Sister, My Seed Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to create a safer and more just world for women and girls. Now, Dr. Rather graduated magna cum laude from Springfield College in Springfield, Mass, with a Bachelor of Science in Human Service. She also earned a Master of Divinity degree and a Doctor of Ministry degree with a concentration in preaching in the 21st century from the Wesley Theological Seminary in Washington, D.C. And also, she'll tell you more about this, but she actually penned 2 books. One is called All the Single Ladies, Modern, Single, and Faithful, and Defiant Women of Faith, which is a 52-week devotional for women seeking to live authentically free. And you can check her out on her podcast, which is called the Defiant Woman Win Podcast. So without further ado, welcome to you on today, Dr. Vanetta. Hey,
Thank
girl.
you. Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are super excited that you came today and that this topic is being talked about because it is one that is not talked about enough, I think.
I agree. We need to get the information to people more than ever, and I'm excited when people are interested in talking about sex trafficking.
Awesome. So I'm going to let you just greet the viewers really quick and then we'll get into everything.
Just you want me to tell them about myself a little bit? Is that what you mean?
Anything that we missed?
Oh, no, I think you captured everything well. I am a preacher, a teacher, an author, and I am an advocate for women and girls. My goal is to empower women and girls and help women and girls live out their vision. I think this world can only be what God intended it to be when women are empowered and in place to do all that God gifted us to do. So I'm excited to be here and to talk about one of my passions, which is sex trafficking.
Definitely. I'm going to have to agree with you because after he made Adam, he said, wait a minute, something's missing.
Yeah.
Then came Eve. So we definitely are one of the missing pieces here. So let's get into this amazing topic. If you're watching, one of the things I first want you to do is go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shawnee Talks Lifestyle, so you can also tune in from YouTube. Now everybody comes on the Facebook, so make sure that you go there. Not only can you catch this talk, but you can also catch future episodes and past episodes. And I want you to do one more thing. So you also, on your later time, check out her website. It's drvanetta.rather.com, and also her other website, which is mysistermyseed.org. That's my beautiful background music. All right. So let's get into this. We're talking about sex trafficking. Now, one of the first questions that I have about this is, can you tell us a few key statistics about sex trafficking?
Yeah, well, sex trafficking is a criminal enterprise that is devastating the lives of young women and girls. And what I really want people to know, especially people of color, is that it disproportionately impacts the lives of Black girls. Black girls make up 14% of the population in this country, but they account for 60 to 70% of all sex trafficking victims.
Mm.
And the percentage depends on what state you live in and what community you live in. But 9 times out of 10, it is 50%, 60%, 70% of those who are ensnared in trafficking are Black and brown girls. So I really want people to know that. I want people to know that human trafficking, which sex trafficking falls under the umbrella, is $150 billion annual industry in this world globally. But in America, sex trafficking is a $15 billion annual industry that is built on the backs of young, vulnerable girls. And I just, can't understand why we don't stand on our heads when we hear that teenage girls, the average age of girls who are trafficked are, 14 years old. And when you hear that 14-year-old girls are being sold and being forced or coerced to have sex or be raped by 10, 15, 20 men a day,
Mm,
I think we as a society, that's a failure on us as a society. But I think we have to make sure that we don't normalize or ignore or forget to be outraged by the fact that, this is happening to very young girls in every community. I want people to know that sex trafficking happens everywhere in all 50 states. And if we don't show some outrage, if we don't show some concerns, whether they're our girls biologically or not, we have to care that this is modern day slavery and it is happening on our watch in our communities. And so that means it is our work to do to make sure that girls are free and that they live the futures that God intended for them to live, which they cannot do if they are enslaved in trafficking.
definitely. I was doing a little research myself because I have a girl and two boys. One of the things that I found, though we're emphasizing, I know you're saying about girls too, but I didn't know boys.
Mm-hmm.
Look at
Yeah.
sex traffic. In fact, my husband, we had actually spoken to someone who said there was a father who was sex trafficking his son.
Yeah. And that's another point I want people to understand, that a trafficker doesn't have a set profile. Girls have been trafficked by family members, parents, fathers, mothers, neighborhood, police officers, pastors. There is no set profile for a trafficker. They come in all shapes, sizes, backgrounds,
Right.
and they see girls as dollar signs. And parents, a lot of times, traffic. A lot of parents who are drug addicted traffic their
Mhm.
girls and boys, because of drug addiction and all kind of other unfortunate situations. But the reality is, yes, parents traffic girls, police officers, pastors. There are a whole lot of different kinds of people, and there's no set profile for a trafficker.
Definitely. So I'm going to actually share this. It's a diagram that I found, and I found it interesting, and maybe you can shed some light on this. But it just kind of gave some of the things that we should be looking for as far as noticing that someone could possibly being sex trafficked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to share. I don't know if you've seen this before. Hold on a minute. Okay, here we go. Have you seen this before?
I have not.
Okay, so these are basically supposedly places that people who are sex traffickers kind of target people at, or you could be seeing someone at these places who is being sex trafficked. The one that stood out to me, because I do have children, is carnivals. And, because when you have your kids at a carnival, that's a more likely place because it's very crowded, where your eyes may lose attention for a second and someone could literally abduct your child for that very reason. So that kind of stuck out to me. And there's other ones that you can see up here, but what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I first want people to know that trafficking doesn't always look like what we see in the movies and what we see on the internet, or how people are explaining it. A lot of times we get these inboxes that say, oh, watch out for this van, or watch out for this. And we think that trafficking a lot of times happens like it happened in the movie Taken, where
Right.
girls are being snatched off the street. And I want people to understand that that's not primarily the way girls are ensnared in trafficking. Now, that does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the primary way that that traffickers ensnare girls is through a grooming process. And they find girls, they build relationship with girls, and they eventually switch. And I'm going to tell you more about that. So I want you to know that a trafficker goes everywhere girls are. They will go to their schools, and no, they can't get in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times they will send their runners or, younger people their age to go in to, invite girls to parties or stuff like that. Traffickers are at amusement parks, King's Dominion, Six Flags.
Right.
Traffickers show up at malls because they know girls are wherever, at parks, wherever girls are. That's where traffickers show up. And what they do is build relationship. They show up on the internet. They use the internet to build these relationships. So they don't come off initially saying,
Right.
what they come off is as, filling voids, empty voids in young girls. And that's why they target, and girls who are most at risk are girls with low self-esteem, girls who don't have stability in their home, girls who are not being poured love and
Right.
devotion and care is not being poured into them. So these girls are walking around with a void, and these traffickers know that. And what they do is they look for girls who have a sign or sense that there's this void that they can feel. They build these relationships. They listen to these girls' dreams and their hopes. And these girls are freely sharing, because when you're young and you're 13 and you're 15 and someone is paying you attention, especially if you've never had that attention before, you're going to soak that up. And he is going to use the trafficker. And I keep saying he, but it can be a she, it can be
Right.
anybody. They are using this information to use against the girl in the future. So they are reeling her in, learning her hopes and dreams, buying her stuff, whatever it takes. The trafficker is going to use that grooming process to reel the girl in. And if it takes a month, if it takes 6 months, they are willing to spend that time, spend that money, spend that energy on grooming this girl, because they know it's going to pay off in the long run. Because one girl can make a trafficker $500,000 a year, because
Woo.
again, this girl is sold every single day,
Mm.
and a lot of times, because of the way girls get ensnared in trafficking, they don't realize that they are trafficking victims. A lot of times they think they are these abused, they are in a relationship with this man, but he is
Okay.
abusive in some kind of way, or I'm helping him out. He loves me, but this is, when love is dysfunction and that's all you've known all your life, this
Right.
is what you think it is. And so they will spend a long time grooming this girl, and then they flip the game on her and get her to begin to produce this money by sleeping with sleeping with these men that he bring around, or women, or whoever they're sold to. And that's how trafficking works in America. And this is why I want parents especially to know, or family members to know, that a young girl can live at home and be a victim of sex trafficking. Because a trafficker, what they do during the agreement process, what they're doing is gaining control of her.
Mm.
They're gaining mind control. So when the grooming process is over, she is controlled, and he gets to tell her where to go, what time to meet, when to go to school, so she doesn't get that heat put on her, like she's missing out. She's controlled, and you can live at home and be a victim of sex trafficking, because it's not how it goes on the TV screen. It's not girls
Right.
being snatched off the street. It is girls being groomed and conditioned and controlled, being isolated from family and friends, being told to keep secrets. It's all of these things that teenagers, aren't aware that they're into until it's too late. And that's how trafficking happens, especially in this country.
Right. I was watching documentary and a TED talk on a girl who said she was sex trafficked. Her friends invited her out, I guess, to a club or something.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened in between there, they said to her, "You need to go over there and dance with him or something." And she was like, "I'm good. I don't want to do, whatever." They said, "No, you need to do that because you're going to make me lose my money." from then, she was confused. And then I guess she went over there to dance with him or whatever. And then it led to other things. And they basically ran the show. Is that too a scenario?
Yeah, traffickers will use any scenario. They use, of course, they use parties, and they will use anything. Once they have the girl kind of conditioned, because I want parents to understand that the isolation and the secrecy part of the grooming, while he's buying her stuff, while
Okay.
he is paying attention to her, he's also isolating her from her family and friends. And he is, or she, the trafficker, is setting themselves up as the primary person that this girl can depend on. He is telling her, you, nobody else is going to take care of you like I do. No one is going to do. And so it's eventually pulling you away from your whatever support system that they have. And again, we're talking about a lot of times girls who are starved for attention and, you know, parental guidance and love and stability. And so once he has isolated you from your family, from your friends, from your support system, and has given you everything you desire, because they've listened to, you know, your
Right.
hopes and your dreams, and they can get you to do anything. So if she's at a party, yes, he can tell her, go do this. And you know, a lot of times to keep girls in line, they, you know, use abuse, they use threats, they threaten your family, your friends, they threaten to tell. A lot of times when you have girls invited to these parties, they take video of these girls doing stuff. They get them drunk, get them on drugs, you know, take videos of them doing stuff, and then use that as blackmail. I'm gonna put this on social media, I'm gonna tell your
Oh,
friends,
wow.
I'm gonna tell your family. There are a whole host of tricks that traffickers have and use
Right.
on very young, vulnerable girls who are, you know, looking for love and attention.
Right.
And yeah.
So in our normal day, outside of the isolation and the grooming, like maybe I wouldn't see that. Is there anything we should be looking for that would make us more situationally aware of that someone could possibly be getting trafficked?
Yeah, there are a lot of times, you know, traffickers, I know a lot of gangs that do this. They brand girls. So a lot of times you see a tattoo. I always ask a girl, you know, tattoos are common. Everybody gets them. But, you know, I always ask, what does that mean? Because a lot of times traffickers will brand girls and show that they are owned by someone in
Okay.
particular, you know. So, you know, a girl who is truant from school, if she's, you know, always absent from school, that's a sign that a girl is trafficked. If a girl is all of a sudden showing up with a lot of new stuff, you know, that she normally wouldn't have, expensive stuff, purses and shoes and jewelry and all of this stuff, that could be a sign, because you need to ask, where is she getting this stuff from, you know, and you know, how is she coming up with this stuff? And a girl with an older boyfriend is another sign. A lot of times we look out and, you know, we're out. I remember one time I was at a restaurant, and this was before I got involved in sex trafficking, knew the signs, but I saw something strange. I saw an older man with a younger girl who was half dressed. And I thought it was strange, because I'm thinking, okay, a father wouldn't let his daughter go out like that. And, you know, but it didn't click for me then. But those are signs, you know, so truant from school, tattoos, girls who have older boyfriends,
Right. The gifts, increasing of the
the right, and girls who may have emotional change or some kind of change. Let's say the girl was really outgoing, and now all of a sudden she's kind of, you know, to herself, and or a young girl who knows a lot about sex, because these guys are also grooming them, talking about sex and talking about, and if she has knowledge beyond her age about, you know, sex, and I know she can get that anywhere from any internet now, and even in their music. But having these conversations, a girl who is, you know, really, you know, has changed her attitude. Maybe she was quiet at first and now she's really outgoing. These are signs that should cause us to see a red flag and just dig a little deeper. A lot of times, especially in churches, you know,
Mhm.
I'm a preacher, so,
I'm
you know,
appreciating.
and I was a youth pastor for a long time, and I would get
Yeah.
really disturbed, because a lot of times, you know, people want to correct young women and say your skirt too short, or you wearing this, or your attitude, or whatever. And a lot of times adults only come to these young girls when they have a point of correction for them. But if we are really concerned about girls, what we have to do is engage in relationship with girls, so we can ask about things beforehand, so we can notice these things. And then, instead of judging them, like if a girl all of a sudden has changed the way she dressed because her trafficker is saying, now you wear this, because they control what you eat, what you wear, when you sleep, when you wake up. And our first mindset, I want us to get out of the mindset of let's correct her clothing. No, let's build a relationship with her and investigate why maybe she may be dressing this way, or
I never thought about that. I've always thought about we shouldn't be judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
I really never thought about why is she dressing this way.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's what they see on videos a lot of times, but sometimes it could be a clue or an entrance for you to get into her life and help her. Because if you change the way a young woman thinks about who she is, then she'll change her dress clothing. She'll change the way but a lot of times we're trying to change the outside before we, develop a relationship that can change the inside of a person and show them love and all of that. So,
right.
Yeah, those are signs.
I don't know if you watch this show, The Shy. I don't know if you watch it or not. The last episode was about sex trafficking, I believe.
I don't watch it. My niece is trying to get me to watch it, but I haven't watched it.
And I'm not going to spoil it for those who did watch it. But what I will say is this: a lot of girls, what I've seen through my research, because I don't personally, I could possibly know somebody who's been sex trafficking. I just don't know. They haven't told me. But what I've seen is that they do, like what you said, when they go through something like that, and if they come out of it, they start changing their clothes because it reminds them of what they went through. So in that, what makes you so passionate about this work that you're doing with helping girls with sex trafficking?
Well, I started when I was a youth pastor. I started my organization in 2013, but I think a year or so prior to that, I was a youth pastor at the time, and I began to hear about sex trafficking, and so I began to just educate myself, because I always want to be on top of whatever was concerning young people. And the more I began to learn that, girls 12 and 14 were, being forced to have sex with 10 and 20 men a day, it just disturbed my heart, right? And I know when something disturbs your heart, it is your work to do. And I just couldn't let it go. So I just started to educate myself. And then I would begin to educate the community, educate churches, and do that kind of work. But then I wanted to do more to really impact the lives of girls. And what I know for sure is that a girl with a healthy sense of self and identity, a girl who believes she has a future, and exposing her to what's possible for her future, that girl will be least likely to fall for the manipulation that traffickers use. So along with educating communities and families and girls, I do empowerment work to build up the self-esteem and self-love in girls, so they will have a frontline defense against the manipulation that traffickers use. And so in 2013, I realized I really couldn't do this work alone. So I figured out how to start a nonprofit, and now, we have so much support from the community, and I just do what I can to make sure we educate and that we empower. And that is our goal. We do one other thing too. We don't get to do it as much as I want to do it, but we work with other organizations that maybe house girls who have been trafficked, and we take them for what I call Survivors Day Out. So we take them to get, manicures and pedicures, take them out to lunch. We partner with a program in Bristol, Virginia, and we've done several programs with them, Christmas programs, and we've had college sessions with them. I've taken some mentors, some mentees that I have who graduated from college to have conversations with girls to just let them know that, they are not what has happened to them and they still have a future. So we try to also do some work around restoration, empowering girls who are at risk, and then educating communities.
Are there any other like resources or books? I know there's a lot of parents who want to talk to their kids about sex trafficking, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not really sure where to start. Is there a way or anything that you could recommend?
Yeah, if they're young children, I think we need to start in elementary school educating young girls, because traffickers are starting early to
Mm.
get their foot in the door. So it's a video called Little Red. And if you Google it, you can find it. It's a tool that I use too. It's a video of how they, redid the Little Red Riding Hood story to show girls that these wolves are out here, and it's well done. And I've shown it to teenagers even, but it really works in terms of telling little girls that they're on this journey, not to grandma's house, but on this journey to their future. And they have to watch out for these wolves who want to take them off their journey. And it's a really good tool that I would recommend for any parent who's trying to introduce this danger to their children. So it's called Little Red, and if you Google it, you'll find it.
I'm going to actually look it up because I've been looking for something. We always talk to our children about these things, but yeah, I like anything I can appreciate that will
Yeah.
help make the conversation even more better. So your
Yeah.
organization, you're in the what area?
I started my organization in the Washington metropolitan area. So, yeah. And there's another resource. It's called In Plain Sight. I want to say that's a video too. I think it's a documentary that talks about how these girls are right in our faces, on our pews, in our schools. They are being trafficked and they're in our view, but we have to be intentional about seeing them. So that's another resource. And it's another video that I can't think of right now, that I'm going to think of before I go, but it's a really good video that I want you to see. I want to say it's not okay. I'm gonna think about it and get it.
So if you're not in her particular area, are you servicing more people that are in your area, or is it different places everywhere? Like, what is it?
Well, I go anywhere, and I have events to empower girls. I do events, and girls can register for them. I try to keep them free, but if it is a fee, it's $25. But so we promote everything through our website, through our Facebook pages, and the educational piece. I'm invited to do those, or I've set up an opportunity to do them at a library or wherever. Since COVID has come in, we haven't really been doing a whole lot because I'm going to do some things on the internet and live empowerment sessions and education sessions. But that's pretty much how we do. We let the community know where we're going to be and what the venue is, and depending on who is inviting us to do a session or a workshop, a seminar, the invitation, the openness of that invitation is up to them.
Right. What's your thoughts on searching who are the registered sex offenders in the area and how that relates to sex trafficking?
Well, I think you should. I mean, if you, I never thought about how it relates to sex trafficking, but
it's kind of up and down for me because it's like I don't have time to investigate you, whether you're innocent or guilty, as far as being on that list. But I have obligation to my child. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think if someone is moving to a new neighborhood or someone has moved in your neighborhood, I mean, if you know their name, or is it that you can go to the sex offender registration and see if anyone who lives on your block, see if your address or your neighborhood is on that list, and then it'll show you how many how many registered sex offenders are in your neighborhood. I really don't know how it works, but yeah, I would say go for it.
Right. Okay. Before we get to the next question, I'll just show a few things here. Me and my husband were looking up some things. We really like, wait a minute, hold on, pause. So we found this other diagram. And it just kind of shows like, and I'll share this number. It's the National Human Trafficking Hotline, but it just goes to show like the statistics
Okay.
really, really quick of individual victims and survivors that contact the trafficking hotline.
Mhm.
So of having that type of resource, it just goes to show us that I guess that they've had about a 19 or 20%, you could say, increase every year since 2015.
Yeah, that's not hard to believe at all.
Yes,
Um,
that's number. I mean, thank God for the resource, but it needs to get better than that.
yeah, it's the thing is when you have a society that um, we live in a capitalistic society,
Right.
and you know, and capitalism has run amok. But I don't. I just want us to be mindful that there are people who don't have morals and values
That's
that
right.
that see girls as dollar signs, and in a free society, you know, they're gonna, if they see an easy way to make money and you don't have morals and you don't have values and you don't have fear of God, you will do whatever it is you can do to earn money in a capitalistic society. So that it is what it
Yeah.
is. And that puts the onus back on us as a society to protect girls, to make sure we see this gradual increase. And even in the midst of a pandemic, it has
Oh,
not
worried me.
shut down. I am a part of several networks, and the increase for beds for girls and young women who need places to stay because they've just been rescued out of trafficking, it has increased. If I read an article on the other day
Right.
or a month ago, and it talked about the traffic that's picked up of of people trying to engage with young girls on the internet. So even in the midst of a pandemic, it has not calmed down. It has the demand probably has gotten even greater because in desperate times where our Congress and those in our government are taking away support, like the
Let's
unemployment
talk about
insurance
that.
support,
What?
right? And which means people are desperate, and unfortunately, desperate people do desperate things. And so, if you can sell a girl and it's easy, and the girl lives next door or in your house, or you know
Forever, yeah.
and there is a demand, and that's what we need to really stress too. The reason why sex trafficking and human trafficking is a $150 billion industry
Wow.
and why sex trafficking in America is a $15 billion industry is because there is a demand in this country where grown men want to have sex with children, and there are those who are willing to supply and meet that demand.
So let's talk about that really quick. So I don't know all the details, but there was something I read about, how they have the LGBTQ, how
Mhm.
that right now they're trying to make it LGBTQP, which the P stands for I, I think it's for people who are they would be termed pedophiles. But to me, that falls in. It's a fine line because it falls into the area of what you're saying. Like if I'm seeing,
I have a hard time believing that the LGBTQ community will
not them, I'm
include
not talking about them,
pedophiles.
not them. That's not what I'm saying. Let me
Uh,
re-say it. I'm saying, how the letters go. It's
Right.
basically how you choose to love. Okay, how you choose to love, whether it's man and female choose to love, or man and man and woman one. We ain't talking about that. Skip. What I'm saying is at the end of the acronym, because I'm not saying they're saying that anyone that is doing LGBTQ is a P. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they're going to lump it because it's going to be LGBTQTP. You see
Okay.
what I'm saying? It's like
No,
I choose to love. I choose to love. Like what
right.
you're
This is what
saying,
I'm saying.
I love this little girl. Or I love this little whatever.
Right. And
It's okay. It's not. That's what I'm saying. Not talking about
okay, let
LGBTQ.
me just say this. I don't I've not heard that the LGBTQ community is including a P to include
No,
grown people who want to engage in relationships with young people. I have not heard that, and I doubt that that community would, because that's a crime in it is a crime, it's a crime in America to have sex with minors.
that's
Anyone
what I
under the
thought.
age,
That's what I
right?
thought until I saw that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying LGBTQ is the one behind it.
Yeah,
What I am saying is because they have letters. Because
right.
they have letters. It's basically like the alphabet, A, B, C, D, F, G. You understand what I'm saying? It's like I'm lumping you all together. Pretty much. Not saying that one is like the other. None of that.
Right. And I think that's it's our job to
They're
make
trying to make us
sure.
accept it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because think about years before when you, and I'm not talking about LGBTQ, but I'll just mention it for now because years before when you said that, even though people were doing that, no one talked about it. You understand what I'm saying? It was not okay. People didn't want to see it on their TV. They didn't want to see it on certain things. So now today and everything that you watch, it's blasted everywhere. So I'm not saying that that's what people should do, but in a sense, on TV land, I'm gonna call it TV land, it has become a normal, like this is this and this is this. And even to the point where in schools they have put this in curriculums to teach children the different types of relationships and such. So going back to my original point, um, the P, which has nothing to do with the LGBTQ, but the P, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get these things passed as something that is official so that it can become a norm.
Well,
You know,
I think that's in I just don't understand who they are, first of all,
right,
and then I don't understand how that will even be possible because it is against the law for grown people to have sexual relationships with minors. So that's not even possible to normalize on regular TV as something that's acceptable because that
right,
it is already a law that you cannot have these relationships with,
right.
minors.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. It was just a
Yeah.
conversation I was listening to, but it made me think. Why I brought it up is because it made me think when we're
Mhm.
talking about looking for these situations. Just like you, I was riding down the street long ago. This was way before coronavirus happened, and we just happened to be in our car, and I did see an older man hugged up with this young girl,
Mhm.
and I was like, he looked really older than her.
Yeah.
He happened to be a black male, but he looked older than her, and he was
Mhm.
Caucasian girl, but really small. Just but you could tell like there was an age difference there, and she looked
Sure.
like this, like you know, and they were publicly displaying affection. And when I looked at it, I said to my husband, I said, "Is this right?" I was like, "Wait a minute, doesn't this look off to you?" Not because you know what I mean. You see people
Mhm.
do affection all the time on the outside, but it just looked weird to me. Like something inside myself went, something's wrong with this. She looks like
Yeah.
in control.
Yeah, it's a lot of that out here. There's a lot of that out here, and it's been going on for a long time. I think now we are starting to the I think the community is becoming more aware that we have to, when the hairs on the back of our neck stand up or that voice tells us that something isn't right, we have to make sure we do something about it. Call the hotline, call the police even, and just say, hey, this doesn't look right to me. I'm not sure if this is trafficking or not, but I'm gonna tell you what
Right,
I see. And I think now that we are becoming more educated as a community, and if we have a desire to protect girls, which I believe we all should, because we are all the village for these young girls,
right.
then we have to move beyond saying, yeah, that looks weird, to taking some kind of action,
Yeah. Yeah. I really didn't even know what to say when I saw it.
Yeah,
Confused. I was
sure.
like, is this really like because you don't want to be that person too that calls on somebody and it wasn't what you thought it was
Right.
because you're
Yeah.
doing whatever. But in a sense too, it should be like whatever because you could have saved a life.
Right. And I think, the more we educate ourselves and the more we trust ourselves, a lot of times we don't trust our instinct enough, and I'm saying that as a woman, we aren't
Yeah,
trained to
no,
trust
yeah,
our instincts enough, but we have to listen to that voice inside of us and trust that, okay, let's err on the side of being over cautious and do something and take a step. And if we do that, we may just save a life, or we may just expose a whole ring of traffickers, because a lot of times these traffickers don't have just one girl. They have a whole, what they call a stable of girls.
wow,
And so if you notice something with one girl, you may just be unraveling
a
and
bunch of girls.
setting free a bunch of girls. So, think about it in that respect too.
Definitely, I'm going to be even more conscious of paying attention. I think sometimes we're so busy in our own life that we
Hmm.
forget that rule. What is it? Love your neighbor. Part of loving your neighbor is being concerned for others or
Yeah.
taking notice of others. And
Right.
a lot of times, I know I've done it a few times, not intentionally, but I've just been focused on whatever I've been focused on, not to really, pay attention and see something that was probably in plain sight
Yeah.
that I just
Yeah.
really missed.
And I
Yeah,
think that's why that video in plain sight is going to be so helpful, because, it teaches you to look beyond what your eyes see, to look deeper. And if we do that for girls, if we look past all the things that we judge about young girls, maybe she too fast, or she too grown, or she's not dressed appropriately. And if we look past all of that and look deeper, we may just find an opportunity to help a girl. And so I think it's really important for us to look deeper at a
right.
situation, whether it's seeing a couple that looks odd, or seeing a girl by herself that she may be in some kind of trouble. I think, if we just on our part
Right.
intentionally look deeper and do treat others the way we want to be treated, which is, the biblical greatest commandment, to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right. I was going to share a quick story. This was actually something that was on the news, and you can feel led to share a story too, just to kind of make people aware of what's going on out there. But on NBC 10, in the Philadelphia region, there was a title of an article. It said, the girl said, "I don't want to be here." That was her message, and it uncovered Chester Co. sex trafficking ring. So what
Mm,
happened is that three men faced charges for running a human sex trafficking organization in Malvern, PA. So if you know anybody in that area, that's basically where they were doing that. And this message basically helped lead to the discovery of this traffic ring by her sending that message. The East Whiteland Township Police in Chester County detectives and the Homeland Security investigators rescued the girl from the parking lot of Malvern, PA, at a Wawa on May 30th, in Chester County. And then this is what one of the attorneys said. He said the investigator said the girl had been held for several weeks against her will in various locations in that actual area. And then they found out that the 14-year-old and the 18-year-old woman were being forced into sex by three men and others.
mhm.
So this was going on right um, in the area,
Right.
the
And
location.
and what I want people to hear in that story is, again, sex trafficking in America alone is a 15 billion with a B annual industry. So I want you to know that that story, it is typical of what's happening in our communities. Let's just think, and the sad thing I want to say about it, because it disproportionately happens to Black girls. Black
Yeah.
girls are
80%.
disproportionately impacted. I want us to know that we have to be vigilant about it, because that story is not unique. That story happens in every community, and we have to be unique, because I want you to think about the R. Kelly incident.
Well,
R.
let's talk.
R. Kelly had been he may not have been selling girls, but he manipulated girls in the same way traffickers do, to gain control over them and to have his way with them for decades, for a decade. And we knew it as a community, but we did not do enough
Wow.
to in that. So I want you to know, and I want everybody listening to know, that it is a bunch of R. Kellys out here, and R. Kelly, maybe he had money and he used these girls for his own personal pleasure, may not have sold them, but there are so many R. Kellys who are using these girls to make money. And so the story that you shared that happened in Pennsylvania is happening everywhere. It's in every community, and it is happening to Black girls.
Yeah, and especially in the music. And you might be saying, well, that's kind of steep. That's kind of, wild that she would say that. But no, it is very rampant. And you can call it what you want to call it. You can sugarcoat it. You can paint it with some cute white icing or whatever you want to paint it with. But it is what it is. And that's what happened. Now, whether, and I wasn't there. I don't know if parents gave consent or not, but I'm going to tell you this. My child, she wanted to go do a song in the studio. She going with me. We ain't going by ourselves. So it don't matter. So regardless of how you feel about that or what roles people played, it was happening.
Yeah.
And it is happening. And we can sugarcoat it and we can say, oh, that's how people get up in the music game. Well, it's wrong.
It's absolutely wrong.
It's wrong.
It is absolutely wrong. And it doesn't just have to be the music industry. We know that people prey on communities that are vulnerable, and underserved Black communities where Black girls are, they prey on it. And I want you to know what I want statistics in terms of sharing statistics. I want people to know, and I know this is very much true in the Washington metropolitan area where, I live, that those who, again, the demand for trafficking is because we have a lot of men in this country who want to sleep with children. And those men predominantly are white men. 55% of grown men who buy young girls are white men. I want to say 18% are Hispanic and something like 15% are Black men. But largely white men are paying to rape our daughters, paying to rape young girls in our communities. And so as long as there is that demand, and girls, there's a plethora of girls who are underserved, who go unloved in this country, that demand will always be supplied, because we always have, ugly people who are willing to supply that demand. So the story you shared is not unique. It is happening in your community. I don't care if you live in an affluent community. Traffickers do not care. They can. I remember a story of a young girl who lived in an affluent community, but her parents worked a lot and she was on her own a lot. And girl, like all of us, need love and attention and support, and she wasn't getting that. And the trafficker was able to come into her life and manipulate her with the methods that they use and traffic her. So I want everyone listening to know, in your community, I don't care how nice, middle class, poor, or whatever your community is, it is happening there, because traffickers are always looking, and they don't care where they get girls from. But a lot of times they are searching in underserved communities because, they know those girls are, a lot of times, I'm not saying that this is in every home, that there are no caring people in underserved communities. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that is where they do a lot of their looking for girls in those communities. So it's happening everywhere. No girl is safe. So make sure you empower her and look out for her and be the village that she needs.
Yeah, be that. Everybody be that. And listen, like she was saying, you'll see more coverage on Caucasian females that are missing than Black females that are missing. You should be asking yourself, why is that?
Yes.
Why are you not seeing the coverage on that? When we look on the news, we'll see several things about, and I'll say a Black person or Hispanic person, because that's my nationality or whatever, but a Black person or Hispanic person doing crazy stuff. We might see some of that, on the news, but why are we also not seeing who's missing?
Yeah.
Where are they? Can we see the full balance here?
And also, even when I began to really get into this work, I would see posters that, we would see white little girls, in chains or posters that
Right.
always
Yep.
reflect white girls. But, we have to think, because if the majority of sex trafficking victims are Black
They're
girls,
black girls.
why is that not the story we are telling through, the education of it, in the posters that we see? And so that is the first thing I make sure I always tell any interview, that I want you to know it's predominantly Black girls that are impacted by trafficking, and it's predominantly white men who are buying girls. Those are two statistics that I want this
Right.
world to know.
This is my opinion, and it's just an opinion. Disclaimer: what the message sends when we advertise that it's basically just the female that is Caucasian that is missing over, and not even mentioning or really hardly knowing that the Black one is not. We're saying they don't matter.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. We are saying Black girls do not matter, and that is not true. We all matter, but you know who matters right now? Black girls. It's no different than when we were saying Black lives matter, because I'm not going to scream Caucasian girls matter when you're already mattering.
Right.
You see
Exactly.
what's going on, and we hate the fact that you're on these missing things. We don't want that at all. But the thing is, they are the subliminal messages they're saying is we care about our Caucasian females, but our Black females, bye. We don't care. You don't matter. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody's coming for you. It stamps that message not only in the person's head who is missing, who found out about that. Hopefully, if they're still living at some point, or if they're still in that situation and they kind of catch things here and there being said or not. But they have to wonder. I'm sure I wouldn't know how they felt, but I was sure they would wonder, why is nobody looking for me? Think about yourself. Think about your children. Wouldn't you think your children, if that happened to them, they would say, I know somebody's looking for me. Why is nobody not looking for me? Why
Yeah.
does it not matter? How could you keep going on every day like it doesn't matter? It matters.
Yeah. And a lot of parents do, or another question I hear a lot is, why doesn't the girl just leave? If she's being trafficked or, controlled, why don't she? But a lot of times girls don't have a place
To
to
go.
leave. A lot of girls get ensnared in trafficking because they are runaways. They're running probably from a bad situation at home.
Okay.
But I want you to know that within 48 hours of being on the street, a girl is approached by a trafficker. And so she's going from a bad situation to a worse situation. And yes, sometimes people aren't going to look for her. She's not expecting anybody to look for her. And if she recognizes, because again, traffickers do this manipulation thing with young girls. But
Right.
let's say she recognizes, this young girl who ran away recognizes that she's in a bad situation.
Right.
If she ran away, where does she have to run to? Where's she going?
Where should she run to?
Well, she should call the hotline if she knows about the hotline. But cities and states are getting better about protecting girls. When trafficking first became really on the radar, a lot of times young girls were being arrested for prostitution, and now courts are beginning to recognize when a girl is being trafficked, as opposed to labeling her a prostitute and punishing her after she's been victimized. So
Oh my God.
we had a system where, a girl would be victimized and then she would be criminalized for being victimized. But now courts are beginning to recognize when a girl has been trafficked. And so she gets wraparound services. But a girl has to make that leap. And it's so hard if you run away from abuse situation and you were manipulated into being trafficked. It is so hard can you imagine how hard it would be to develop the wherewithal and the courage and self-love enough to leave that situation, to go where? And, so it's just so much work that needs to be done to empower girls. But so when we ask these questions, why doesn't the girl leave? Let's think through that. Let's factor in all of the reasons why she probably is saying, well, at least I get a meal, at least I'm not on the street, you can't even imagine the threats that she may be experiencing. This trafficker may be saying, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna kill somebody, or you leave me, you're gonna, you don't know. So let's err on the side of compassion when we're asking, about why a girl why she would stay in a situation.
So let's talk about this really quick and then we'll end. This is a really good conversation, but I never thought about this before. So the girl could be out there, she's prostituting, she's making this money. People assume, oh, you're prostituting because you're making this money because you're going to get these bags and get this whatever. No, you taking that back to the person who is trafficking you. You're not benefiting off of that money like that. You're basically used. And now I get arrested for doing something that I was forced to do and to bring them their money. And now you want to throw this sentence on me. We're going to talk about it because the sentences for Black girls is different for white girls. We're going to say it because it's true.
Yeah. Another way that I want people to be aware of is homeless girls, a lot of times who run away from home, they get ensnared in trafficking because a lot of times what they engage in is survival sex. And so they will have sex with somebody to get money to sleep in a hotel. They will have sex with someone to get money to eat. So there is survival sex that that girls engage in because they're trying to just survive the streets. But a lot of times traffickers are looking for girls who are already engaged in survival sex, and they work their manipulation on these girls to control them and eventually get these girls to work for them. So survival sex is another gateway into sex trafficking for young girls. And we still need to have compassion for these girls too, because if you are destitute on the street, not knowing where your meal is coming from or where you're going to lay your head, these options become real for you.
Definitely.
And I just don't want us judging these girls. I want us to put ourselves in that situation to say, well, if it was me and I had no food and no way to, what would I be willing to do? And let's just, have some compassion where these girls are concerned.
I love it. I love it. Make sure that you go to her website, support her. I love what you're doing. I love it. My sister, myseed.org. I also want pastors. If any pastors are watching out here, you guys need to be educated.
Yeah.
I know we go to church, hallelujah, Shabbat, and all that types of stuff, but you need to be having some of them eyes to see if could be happening right in the congregation, because we don't have telepathy. It might be prophetic, but we don't have no telepathy, so we don't know everything.
Right.
And someone could totally be masking this. Is there any workshops out there that pastors could take to kind of, or things they could put in place in their church to kind of attract predators to run away when they come to their place? They're like, I want to be here. This is not easy. What could they do?
Well, I think every pastor should probably go to sharedhope.org. It is a national organization that fights sex trafficking. There are so many resources on sharedhope.org. And one of the resources is you can figure out, first of all, what grade your state has in terms of, protecting girls and making sure girls aren't victimized and then criminalized. But there are also resources to help you with training your staff and educating yourself. You can bring me out to your congregation to educate you, but you can also use Shared Hope as a resource to help you understand what trafficking is, how it works, signs to look for. They have so many, because they are a multi-million-dollar, nonprofit, and they could give you a lot of resources to help. They have some tools you can also buy as well for churches, to help you educate your staff and walk through what, victimization looks like and how we can best help our young women.
All right, look.
And look for the predators on the pew. Let's not just look for girls who are victims, but let's look for.
I don't know, hopefully y'all, it ain't none of that, but if y'all is, we done told you.
Yeah. Look for those who are possibly have signs that they are victimizing girls.
Right.
Because in this country, 1 in 4 girls is molested by age 18.
My
And those victims and those perpetrators are both on our pew. So let's not just look for the girl who may, look a certain way, or we judging and being judgmental, but let's also try to peep out some of these characteristics of the abuser.
You're
All these
repeating
funny jokes about, a girl's body that grown men are making, that is a sign. All these ways they looking at a girl like she, like
right.
they're imagining things, that those are signs. So let's not let those signs slip away from us either.
Yes, get your whole mind right. And if you're on this page, goodbye, because I don't even do all of that. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. So we peep you, we see your game, and we ain't playing all of that. So, but for everybody else, if you're a corporation, if you're a church, anything like that, she just said it right here. She said, look no further. You can go ahead to her website, mysistermyseed.org. You can go ahead. She does virtual consultations where she will take the corporate staff. I don't know if she does. I'm just saying it. I figured she does. She sounds like she do. So go ahead and she'll book that, and she'll get your staff ready so you guys could be alert in the spirit and alert with them eyes to see what's going on, because our girls are not safe and they definitely need help. So thanks so much for coming to Shoney Talks Lifestyle. I know this was one of those tough conversations, but guess what? That's what we do here sometimes, and that's what was necessary, and we definitely need to have more of these, and we will. So thanks for watching, and have an amazing, happy Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.